All right. Hi, everybody. My name is Chantel, but I'm also known as Miss Tiero or Miss T. Arrow. And this is my friend Jane. Jane, say hi.
Hi, my name is Jane.
And
I'm an
so
intuitive.
Yeah, we're both intuitives. And what we were kind of thinking is that maybe we should start a podcast where we both discuss things that we really enjoy about the esoteric world, be it I'm a tarot reader and Jane is an astrologist. We both do a lot of different things with intuition, Akashic record work, et cetera, et cetera. So we thought that as we learn more about the esoteric world, we would teach each other and in turn teach you about things that we find interesting and fascinating. So today's our first podcast and it's also my birthday. So happy birthday to me and hopefully you'll enjoy what we have to share. Woo, woo, woo. Happy birthday. I'm wearing my birthday mini tiara just to celebrate and look
And she looks
festive.
beautiful and gorgeous.
Thank you. So Jane, being that you are an astrologist or astrologer, I guess it's astrologer. Do you have anything to say about my birthday today and maybe things that I could maybe look forward to, or I don't know, can you tell me a little bit about myself and then anybody else that's born on this day? So we got Alicia Keys. She's born on this day and obviously she's deceased, but we also have Virginia Woolf was born today. So these are for all us January 25th people. Jane might give us a little insight in our world.
Yeah. So January 25th, it's an amazing day. Everyone that's born on this day have traits of being talented. They're very interesting. However, they do have problems of being a little bit unstable.
What?
But that's just a little bit unstable, but that is contributed because of Uranus. And so Uranus is one of the ruling planets of Aquarius. And so with Uranus, it's just like a planet of complete change. It likes to be quirky. It likes to change. It likes to do normally considered the norm. And so because you are ruled by like a planet of complete change, your life is just not going to be stable. Like as much as you want stability, it's just, that's fine because you're talented and interesting and it just makes for like a full life.
It can't be boring, I guess.
No, you can't be boring. Aquarius is like, yes, they are very smart, very smart, very intellectual. They care a lot about humanity. They care a lot about ideas, very revolutionary. Their ideas are very revolutionary, and a lot of the time, it is way ahead of its times. What else?
So I know that according to the birthday book, I am in the week of the genius. Can you tell us what that means?
The week of the genius.
Other than being unstable? Say that again?
Other than being unstable, they need to cultivate some patience because geniuses, they just like see things so clearly in their mind's eye and they just want it to happen so quickly, but not ready for that. And so to get all of these things to actually start to come into fruition, they need to activate this calm, like being calm and persistence rather than just like trying to control things and making things go your own way.
Like right now I'm like seething with anger because of the fact that Jane, that P word, patience, is like it like makes me so angry. I think it's like even from when I was a little child, like when my mom has always been interested in intuition and stuff like that. So I think she may have seen a psychic or she did like a past life regression on me or something like that. And the message that I came through as what I'm supposed to learn here on this planet in my lifetime was that gosh darn word, patience. And I feel like patience haunts me. Every answer to everything in my life, whether it be in astrology, whether it be in tarot, whether it be an Akashic record reading, it's always like patience. But I did have an aha moment about, I don't know, a couple weeks ago. I was talking actually with you, Jane. And I guess my frustration with patience is always that I've been measuring it in time. So I've always been like, okay, I've waited enough time. That means I've been patient. But then I realized, and it doesn't help that much, but it helps a little bit. It makes me state it a little bit. Is that patience is actually measured in the feeling of what you are hoping to achieve. So I've been really impatient about love, we'll say, because I've been hoping to invite my divine life partner, soulmate, twin flame, whatever you want to call it, into my life for a really, really long time now. I've done a lot of work in clearing whatever needs to be cleared to be, the right energy to attract this person. But then I feel like the amount of time that I put in should have been enough for this person to come into my life. But when in reality, have I really been living as if I'm already in this love relationship? And for what duration of time have I been living in the duration, in the feeling of what it would be like to be in the partnership that I'm looking for? So I'm learning that you really have to be in the energy of what you want to create. And the amount of time that you're in that energy is actually what patient is. It's not actually like linear time. Whatever. It's annoying, but I figured that out.
That's an incredible insight. Very incredible insight and very valuable. And see, patience has like completely paid off. You would have never had this little tidbit that you could have shared with the world.
Okay, fair. So hopefully, this will help somebody else feel that like the world isn't listening to their prayers or dreams or wishes, because it's not in time. It's not linear in accordance to patience. So there's that. So Jane, what do you want to teach us today?
I'm going to teach us about...
Wait, other than the fact...
I'm going to teach everyone about...
Sorry, I just want to ask you one little question. So it's pronounced Uranus, not... I've always thought it was obviously pronounced Uranus. And so it's Uranus.
See, I like to say Uranus. Other people say Uranus. I don't like saying Uranus. So for the duration of this podcast and like all future podcasts from here on out, I will be referring to this planet as Uranus.
Okay, thank you. I just need to have clarity.
Are you okay with that?
I'm okay with that. It was new.
I don't know. It just has a better, it just flows nicer. Like I don't know. You would saying Uranus.
Well, Uranus is quirky, right? Just kidding.
Uranus is quirky, yes, it is. We'll just say Uranus.
Okay.
Anyways, so yeah, I'm going to be talking about fire. Fire is incredible. It is our life force. It's something that I know a lot about because my sun sign is in fire. And so what people generally just think is that in the zodiac, and when it comes to the horoscopes, they are only one sign. You are, in actuality, just a multitude of different signs within your natal chart. So depending on the houses and the planets, you actually do have a bunch of different elements within your chart, but it's a little bit more advanced, so we'll just go through that at another time. Anyway,
I don't understand.
This is all about fire. So there are 4 elements of the zodiac. There is fire, water, earth, and air. And like I said, there are 12 signs and 3 signs within each element. And so with fire, it is, like I said, our creative life force. It's warm, it's dynamic, passionate, very motivated, very energetic. That being said, it is all about movement, and it's the type of energy that needs to be constantly moving, and it cannot be stagnant. It just has to keep moving. It's also what makes us go after our dreams, and it's basically, it's very intuitive and impulsive. This is not an element that is rational. It's not rational at all. It just kind of like, it's just like that spark. So if it has an idea, it just kind of goes after it. Doesn't really think about the consequences. It just goes after it, and it's like, okay, I'll deal with the consequences later. So it's probably like, you know what? Not
that kind of like makes me understand it a little bit better, because like if I think of fire in our natural world, it is hard to contain if it gets out of control. It starts with a little spark and it can end up being like a wildfire. And so It's really interesting that like the characteristics of actual fire that I understand in like my physical world relates to like the different fire signs in astrology.
Exactly. That's pretty cool. Yeah. What else? Yeah, so they just like face the consequences later. They are also very, very concerned about identity. And so, like I said, we have 3 different signs within fire. We have Aries, we have Leo, and we have Sagittarius. And they all approach identity a lot differently depending on where it is that they fall in the spectrum. And so, basically, what fire does, it's very healing. Fire is very healing. And so anyone with like a fire sun sign, or anyone that has a lot of fire in their chart, you'll find that a lot of the time they will go into a period of like depression, but then it's through this transformational process that they start to find themselves. And then when they find themselves, they are able to use that knowledge that they've integrated within that time and use that as a catalyst for change. And so what Aries does is that they, what's it called? Aries is all about the ego. So Aries is all about the self. And so their main concern is developing a personality, figuring out who they are in the world, what they want to do. They're the first sign of the Zodiac as well. And so they are basically here to pioneer or start something or lead something. And it's because it is the first sign of the Zodiac, it does fall within the cardinal signs. And so each of the 4 elements, they have cardinal signs as well. And Aries is the first sign of fire.
What does cardinal sign mean?
Cardinals are here to lead. So they're here to lead and they're here to pioneer. They are the ones with the ideas. They're the ones that like create a lot of movement and actually get the ball rolling. That being said, it's like they have all this energy and it's like a huge concentration of energy. And when all of this energy is, what's it called? I'm trying to like formulate my words right now. It's kind of hard, but basically, they have like all of these ideas and all of this energy, and then they put it out into the world. They're able to get the ball rolling, but they aren't able to continue going because they don't get excited for like the first few months or first few weeks or first few days. But they kind of need like an extra push or someone to keep like something to keep them going. It's kind of like a flame, right? Like you can't just like let fire burn. You kind of have to keep feeding it. And that's kind of like the weakness of cardinal signs is that they're great at like overseeing and like managing and everything. But when it comes to like actually going on and continuing projects, they're just awful at that.
Is Aries the only cardinal sign within all the other fire signs? Or are all fire signs cardinal?
No, so Aries is the only cardinal sign of the zodiac. Sorry, not of the zodiac, of the fire element. And then with all the other elements as well, you have Cancer for water, you have Libra for air, and you have Capricorn for earth. But I will talk about that at another time. Yeah, but basically they're just here to initiate change and basically get everyone to feel and start to look within themselves and figure out what it is that brings fire into their lives, or like what makes them happy, or what it is that they want to do in this world. They're also very adventurous and courageous, and they hate being told what to do. They hate being told what to do.
I have one question. I don't know if you know the answer to this, but is the sign that goes along with Aries, is that the ram?
Yes. Yeah, it is symbolized by the ram.
And how does that relate to, if it does, or like even like astrology or like horoscope or whatever, or zodiac, I mean?
Yeah, so like a ram, they just kind of go. So Aries is ruled by the head. And so when they go into a situation, they, like I said, fire doesn't really think. They just kind of go by impulse. And if there is a situation that comes in their way, a lot of the time they'll just like keep pushing and keep fighting through, and just and they'll just continue to keep going, no matter what the consequences. And I mean, this can be a great thing, but it can also be a really bad thing. But their persistence is really great at that. They just kind of ran through, kind of like they just power through.
Okay, so also within the fire element, like the characteristics of fire, also the characteristics of the ram makes how like many Aries will be coming across in the world. Aries sun sign for the most part.
Yeah, so Aries are really, like, very blunt and very honest. They also have, because they are the first sign of the zodiac, they come across as being childlike and naive, which, and what else? They're also very creative. I had more things to say, but I can't remember that.
That's pretty good. I mean, I have learned a little bit more than I knew before. So what about what's the next one? It's, I guess, Leo.
Yeah, so the next is Leo. They are ruled by the sun. And so kind of think of like the sun as a limiting spotlight, right? And so wherever the sun falls on like a person that has Leo, like a lot of Leo in their chart, it's obviously going to create a spotlight. And so Leos are all about drama. They're all about like theatrics and just being out in the spotlight and putting yourself out there. And it's interesting right now because the North Node, so like basically stays in, not explaining this properly, so like on another episode I will be talking about the North Node. But the North Node stays in a sign for about 2.5 years. And right now, or maybe it's 1.5 years, I'll have to like double check my facts, but it stays in a sign. And right now it's currently in Leo. And so Leo challenges us to put ourselves into the public eye, and then just get ourselves where it is that we love, and which is amazing because Leo is ruled by the heart. And so Leo challenges us to like go deep within ourselves and figure out what it is that we love, and express that into the world. And so they are not cardinal signs, they are fixed signs. So the advantage of being a fixed sign is that they are able to just continue to persevere and just go and continue moving. As soon as they have an idea, you cannot sway them. Like, they are very fixed, and they just need to complete whatever it is that they need to complete. So if they have a project that they are very passionate about, they will continue doing it, even if they find that that project is probably not in their best interest. So they just have to continue doing it. And that can be said for Aquarius as well, because Aquarius is a fixed sign. Like, once they have an idea of something, they just need to keep going. Yeah, but yeah, Leos are amazing. They are very concerned with self-worth and just maintaining the sense of individuality and being able to really express that energy. What else? They're also like natural leaders. They are very great leaders. Creative, they're passionate, they're very humorous.
I guess then it would make sense, like with the lion being there, their animal, their spokesperson, you know, with their big mane, kind of always on show, like king of the jungle, like front stage, front and center. So that's interesting that the qualities of a lion also kind of relates to the qualities of sun sign Leo. It's interesting.
Yeah. Oh, and you'll notice too that like most Leos, not all Leos, but most Leos have like a fantastic head of hair. Like I have not met.
So it like nobody's gonna be balding. That's a Leo.
No, like you have no idea. Like because before I used to do hair, right? And so when like my clients would come in and they would see me, and then I would look at their hair, and their ponytail would literally be like that big, and I'd be like, oh,
must be a Leo.
Like just out of curiosity, when is your birthday? And then they'll tell me that they're a Leo. I'm like, oh yeah.
So from a professional hairdresser, this is fact. Leos have hair.
They have amazing hair. It is like shiny and beautiful and thick, and it's just like, yeah, they are blessed with great hair.
Interesting.
Unless
That's
there's
really
something
funny.
else in their chart, but normally they have amazing hair. Yeah, so that's Leo. And then we have Sagittarius. Sagittarius is all about truth. And so with truth, it's like what it is that you believe in, what it is that resonates to you. It is ruled by the planet Jupiter. And so with Jupiter, Jupiter challenges us to grow and expand and evolve. And basically, it's like, it's an expansive planet, like it's a huge planet. So anywhere that your sign falls in Jupiter, it just like highlights and magnifies. It's a mutable sign. So what that means is that they're able to really go with the flow. And so these are the people that kind of like, they're like the perfectionists, and they're able to just like, they're very detail oriented, but they aren't really concerned about like making huge changes in the world. They're just kind of great at like perfecting like little things or just like improving things, but also being able to do what it is that they love.
I think of them as like the spontaneous sign. Like I feel like when I think of Sagittarius, like these people always like adventures, and they never really want to be tied down. They're kind of like, they're just like bursts of energy. Is how I kind of see most of the Sagittarius people I know.
Yeah, they are like because they are the philosophers of the Zodiac. And so being philosophers, you just want to explore, and you want that freedom to be able to just go out into the world and really just figure out what it is that not getting that, I just lost my train of thought, but like
what's the symbol for a Sagittarius? Is that the
it's a centaur,
right.
But yeah, it's like the bow. Yeah, so it's all about
half horse.
Yeah, it's like all about like higher learning and truth and all of that stuff. But yeah, they are very spontaneous, and they're great energy. They are like little bursts of fire. Yeah, little bursts of fire. But they're like the sign that needs a lot of freedom. So out of all of the signs, they definitely need the most freedom. They need like a lot of philosophy.
Like I guess if like they're
a lot of freedom.
Yeah, if they're exploring a lot, they can't really be contained, really, which is like an element of fire. Like doesn't necessarily want to be contained, because if you contain fire, you're going to put it out. So that's interesting too, with how it's a little bit different from all the other fire signs, but that it still carries different elements of the characteristics of actual fire. So cool.
Yeah. So you have like your cardinal signs. Well, you have like Aries, who wants to just lead and pave the way for new ideas. And then you have Leo, that finish things, or like, or just be like, oh, look at me, like, look what I can do. And then just share their art onto the world. And then you have Sagittarius, who's just like, yeah, I'm going to like help out a little bit, but I'm also going to do me and just explore.
Now, I never thought about this before, but it just popped in right now. And I've learned that if things just popped in, it's like divine guidance to a certain extent. But when you kept on mentioning that Aries is kind of, it's the first sign, it's kind of like the baby, it's kind of like the beginning. And it kind of, those three signs like kind of represents a baby, a teenager, because teenagers are usually like me, 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 me. And then, you know, the wise older person, which is the philosopher in the end. So I wonder, I'm curious if this pattern goes throughout the other signs as like baby, teenager, and like the adult or mastery version of that sign. Curious. I never thought about it that way before.
Yes, it definitely does. Because like when it comes to the last sign of the zodiac, the last sign of the zodiac is Pisces. And Pisces is the 12th sign. And it's like, it's the wise soul. It's like the old soul that has been here for incarnations. And they basically died, but they're like still living on Earth. So yeah, like if you take an Aries and then you take a Pisces, they'll just be like completely different, because then you have someone that has just like, oh, like this brand new outlook of life, and it's just like so much optimism and so much enthusiasm and so much zest for life. And then you have someone with Piscean energy, and they're just more reserved and more like in touch with like their emotional side, and a little bit more wiser, because they have integrated all of these past lessons in previous reincarnations. So it's just interesting how they just perceive like energy completely different. But I will talk about water
another time. Cool. I've learned something new today. That's awesome. I do have just one question. I don't know if you know the answer to this, but it's something that it's been going in and out of like popularity. But what's going on with the 13th sign thing?
13th sign. You know what, to be honest, I don't really look at the 13th sign. And the astrologers that I've been learning from and just been watching, they don't really acknowledge the 13th sign as well. In terms of astronomy, those people seem to acknowledge it, but I don't acknowledge it.
So I guess so are you saying then that 13th sign doesn't change what is already known about the signs and planets that we already know?
Currently, with my understanding, I will have to agree with that.
Okay, because it's like when people come up like, oh, you're now a Capricorn. I'm like, there's 0% chance that I'm a Capricorn.
Well,
Zero.
No, there is no way you're a Capricorn.
Like 0% chance. So like when people say like, oh, signs have moved and this and that, I'm like, unless the traits of the signs have also changed as well. Like maybe it's just like the name, but like what a Capricorn is about is different from what I know it to be right now, and it's more of that of an Aquarius. Then maybe I can buy into that like philosophy. But I'm so not a Capricorn that I can't get my head around being a Capricorn. So okay,
there's no way you would be a Capricorn. You would be a very bubbly Capricorn, and
yeah. Capricorn?
Capricorn? No, you're just not a Capricorn.
Okay, so I decided to base like my little lesson. It's kind of similar, but it's kind of showing us how everything is so connected. So I love tarot, and I love learning about tarot cards and doing tarot readings. Like it originally was something that I was really scared about. I come from like a pretty psychic family. My grandma was a medium, and I bought my first tarot deck when I was about 15. I was in high school for sure. And I bought, obviously because I'm Aquarius, I got the Aquarian Tarot. And I don't know where it is right now. I think it's at my mom's house somewhere. But like, I remember being really intimidated by all the cards. Like there's just like so many cards and they all had different meanings. And I really didn't understand how to even go about using them for divination. So I kind of put them aside, and years go by, and I was living in Vancouver. And I started getting into oracle cards. So I started like, they're a little bit easier to understand. So a lot of them are like angel cards. So they'll have like different messages from different angels, or, some use crystals as a way to have like a nice message. And they're usually like a nice message that you can use for divination, we'll say. And so that's kind of like the difference though between oracle cards and tarot, because oracle cards are just kind of like, it could be random messages, to be fair, but tarot actually has its own system, we'll say. For a traditional tarot, there's always going to be 78 cards. and they're separated into two different groups. So one is the major arcana and one is the minor arcana. And so when I just only decided a few years ago to actually really start learning about tarot. I was like, for some reason, it stopped being so daunting. And I was like, do you know what? People can learn this. I can learn this too. So starting with the fact that there's like even the two sets of the major arcana and the minor arcana. So the major arcana, it kind of all the cards in that group relate to life's major events and major changes. And so, okay, so I can understand that. And then the minor arcana is just kind of like day-to-day affairs and events in the life of the querent. And so once I kind of like realized that like you could start breaking it down, it started to be kind of just less daunting. I was like, okay, I think I can get this. So people kind of have misconceptions of tarot itself. Like some people are scared of the cards. Like one time I was working and someone was like, oh, and I'm like, you can't be scared of a deck of cards. Like it really is.
Yeah, but people are so scared. They think that they're going to get the death card, and apparently they're just going to like die the next day if they see that.
I know. And so I can try to educate as much as I can. So tarot and any other oracle cards or any other forms of divination are just for that use, for divination. And that being, it's a tool to allow us to go within and use our own internal compass, our own inner guidance, our own connection with whatever you want to call it, the divine, higher self, the universe. And it just acts as a vehicle for you to be able to use that guidance that you already have within you. So nobody needs to use tarot cards. A lot of people are psychic in their own right. They can tune in and they have an idea or a thought, and they just go with it, and it tends to be in alignment with what the universe, like the universal truth. But with cards, it just helps me, like me personally, it helps me kind of tap in and allow me to more easily connect with my own inner knowledge. Is that the same for you? I know you started learning a little bit more about tarot too, Jane.
Yeah. So I find tarot to be intimidating, like you said earlier, mainly because there's just so much to know and so much to know. And there are like 78 cards, whereas like with normal oracle cards, it's kind of foolproof. Like you know what you're seeing. Like you'll see like a patience card, or you'll see like sorry. Which obviously is like, oh, you need to work on patience. But like with tarot, it's like you'll see a two of swords and you'll be like, what does that mean?
Okay, so I'm going to do a little breaking it down. So I've already talked about like the major arcana and the minor arcana. So you understand those two concepts for sure, Jane, yeah. I'm sure. And so I'll start with actually the fact that every single tarot card also falls into the four elements. So Jane was talking about fire today. And there are fire cards within tarot. So fire is considered the wands. So all the wands in the tarot deck are going to have elements of fire in it. And then even in the major arcana, every card has a different sign. So it's not as obvious. So for instance, like this is the wand in the minor arcana. So it's very obvious that it's the fire suit. But in the major arcana, you can't really tell as easily which one is fire, but they all do have their own element. So there's fire, then there's the pentacles. So pentacles are earth. There is air, which is the swords. There's the cups, which is water. So when we were talking with Jane, or Jane, when I was talking to you, you were telling us about like, the elements of fire. Well, all these cards, even if you're just to like pull this card and you don't know anything else about it, but you know that wands mean fire, you know that maybe it has something to do with new creative energy or something that represents the element fire. So you don't really even need to know anything about the card other than that. So once you have the 4 elements down, it relates next to numerology. So numerology, simply put, 1s mean new beginnings. 2 means usually things coming together or like a partnership. 3 means kind of building a corporation. So if you think of, if you have a table, once you put the 3rd leg down, like it becomes a little bit more solid foundation as building and growing something together. 4 is even more stable. So it's usually about home or family or even celebration. It's something becoming even more solid. 5s tend to be, though, about struggle and conflict. 6s are stable again, but they usually relate to health or family. 7s are about maybe inner spirit and inner guidance and spirituality. 8s, also usually quite stable, but about money and power. 9s are hard because they're usually about endings. They are ending things. So they can be a challenging number for sure. And then 10s are a new beginning. So it's like a 1, but it's with all the lessons learned from 1 up through 9. So even if you have all that information, so you know that 1 means new beginning, and then fire. Okay, so fire means like new life, new idea, new spark. So without knowing anything more about this card, you can kind of deduct that, okay, it's a new beginning in fire and maybe a creative aspect, a new beginning in a new idea, a new spark. Wands also can sometimes mean enterprise, so it could be a new business idea. And right there, you're able to tell a reading just by knowing those 2 facts. The next thing to know about tarot cards is every single image on it. Let me find one that has more stuff. Okay, so I'll do the Fool. So also, imagery is really important in tarot. So everything kind of on the card has a symbology there. So the color yellow, if you know anything about colors, it usually means like new life, new idea, naivety, you know, things that are yellow. It's even it's like growing a plant. If it's yellow, it's not fully bloomed yet. So it's a new beginning. It's like the seed of something. And that's kind of what the Fool means. The Fool is naive. He's off on a new adventure. If you look, he's standing on a mountain. Mountains usually mean like building, like moving up to things, learning new things, going on an adventure. And so just looking at every little element in the card, whatever comes to you is the way that you can also be looking at the card. So you don't even need to know what the Fool actually means, but you can look and be like, well, I don't know. He seems like he doesn't know what he's doing, and he's kind of just like kind of aimlessly stepping off a cliff, and he's kind of carefree, and that's actually all the elements of what the card the Fool actually means. So that's another way that you can look at reading the cards. Just to determine between major arcana and minor arcana. So major arcana, I was saying, is life's major life events. And it has 22 cards. So it's, as I was showing you, it starts with the Fool. And then it goes all the way to the World. And so every card in between is the journey of the hero. It's also known as the journey of the ego. So at any point in your lifetime, you're at certain stages of the journey of the hero or the ego. And in any like endeavor that you have, you're kind of in some part of the journey of the hero. So even if it's like my business could be at a certain stage in the journey of the ego, or my personal life is at a certain point, or this year is at this point in the journey. So it's not necessarily just one finality. You keep on going back on the wheel in different areas of your life.
Okay, so it's not linear. It just kind of depends on where you're at in life.
Yeah, I mean, so you could be using it for, okay, where am I in my particular life? So say, like, for instance, like my card is 7. So my life is all about the Chariot, right? The Chariot's a 7. Also, I told you about 7s. It means like internal reflection, making choices and decision, learning things about your inner world. And that's kind of what the Chariot's doing. It's like it's gained up all this this knowledge from the past cards, and now it's ready to kind of step into the world, make decisions, think for themselves, use their own inner guidance to move forward. So this is like my personal life path is the Chariot.
That's cool.
What's also really interesting too is every card, I'll take you guys through this on another lesson, but like for instance, the 7 is also relates to Cancer, right? So some of the elements of the sign Cancer are going to be important in deducing what the Chariot means and what that's about. So I find like it's really cool that they're all interactive. Like we're talking about today's my birthday, and I'm Aquarius.
Yeah.
And for instance, Aquarius's card is the Star. And so that's in the major arcana. So the Star means inspiration. It means a new perspective. It's usually it comes after darkness. Then you see the light and the star comes, and you're able to have a whole new vision of something moving forward, which sounds a little bit similar to what you're saying about Aquarius, being that it's innovative, new ideas, a bright light. Nothing's the same as it was before. So it also kind of relates, which is, I think is really cool. I think it's really cool that they all mean the same things, right?
Yeah, it's just cool. All interchangeable. It's awesome.
I know I just did like a mini overview about like the cards, but you have any questions, Jane?
What's your favorite card?
The Star.
Actually, is it just because you're an Aquarius?
Actually, well, the Star is one of my favorites, but I think actually the Magician is my favorite. What I like about the Magician is it has like all the different signs on his table. And if you think about magic is like taking everything, mixing it up, and like transforming it into something else. And I really love I find it really amazing to have the alchemy of like creation. So the Magician is able to connect with, you know, the divine, the universe, and like take all that crazy esoteric knowledge, bring it in and manifest. And it's like the beginning stages of manifestation, which I think is really cool. And I feel that we all have the creative power to use the Magician and use magic in our own life. And I feel that it's just like a positive reminder that like we can create anything that we want. And so that's why I like the Magician the best. What about you?
He's incredible. What is my favorite card? This is probably not going to be most people's favorite cards, but like I really like the Tower.
Oh, okay.
It symbolizes just like.
I'm gonna pull it up. Hold on. Tower.
Yeah, it's a tower. So obviously, like when you look at it, it's very scary. But
this
is
probably
like
the most feared card in the deck.
Yeah, like it is. It's scary. But it's like that whole transformational process, right? Where it's just like you've just had enough of how your life is going and you just want to have like some progression. So the tower just has to come down. And then once it comes down, it's like, again, like you said, with the star, you end up seeing the light. And it's just like such a beautiful card. And I feel like so much
if
can
you're not
happen
in it
within that transformational process.
If you're not in the tower is awesome. It's like after you move past the tower that usually you might have some perspective. One thing actually I didn't mention about cards in general is that some people read with upright and reverse. So people are probably don't understand why to do either. I personally read with reversals. So reversals is like the Ace of Wands. This is upright. And then the Ace of Wands reverse would be this way. Now, I've had teachers that say like they only read upright, right? Because all aspects of this particular card, whether it be quote unquote good or bad, are available by just reading it upright. But I personally think when I see it upside down that it's like they want me to for sure read it as a reversed card. So I read reversals as either blocks or limitations, internal or external. So it could be, you know, negative mind chatter could be considered a block, but then it could also be like, you know, finances could be a block. So it just, I find it to be anything that's blocking this card being at its like in its best form. That's how I kind of look at reversals. Do you read them too that way too?
Yeah, I know, like when I read them, I know there's like a heavy emphasis on the card, and they really want you to know what these blocks are. So that's how I interpret.
And sometimes though, also reversals is like, so say this, you have like the Four of Wands upright or reversed. So sometimes it also actually means that you didn't learn the lesson of the card before. So sometimes you want to relate it and go back to like, okay, so what should I have learned in the Three of Wands? Like, okay, so maybe I have not, you know, been looking forward towards my future enough. Maybe I need to still be planning and getting creative and having ideas as to what I want my future to be. Because then once I have that under control, then the stability that would be coming with a family and, you know, getting married might be able to happen. I don't know, just give me an arbitrary thing.
That's really cool. I never thought about it that way.
So yeah, it's just another little thing.
Is there a reason why someone would only read upright and not take into account reversals?
Well, one reason being that would be 156 cards to have to memorize all the meanings for. And so we already know that 78 is kind of daunting. So double that could be considered frustrating. And also sometimes it's just a little bit more difficult to decipher what that means. Like, is it a block? Is it mean that like it just makes it a little bit more confusing sometimes as to what the clear message is of that card. But what you need to do in general is like, if you find something that you're stuck, take a deep breath and just whatever flows out of your mouth is what's meant to be said. Because I always start with all my readings with messages to be for the highest and best good of everybody, every individual that is involved, and to hope that all the messages that come through will greatly help the person that I'm reading. So I just start talking sometimes if I'm stuck. But I think people are really afraid of getting stuck and like not knowing what to say about a card. And that's why they might not want to read reversals, because it's once you know all the upright, you're like, okay, I'm good with those. But then when it comes to reversal, you're like, and you get stuck. Another reason
that seems to be my issue.
Yeah, no, I mean, when there's a lot of reversals, I'm always like, ugh, like I could get annoyed. So they're just, you have to think a little bit more in depth as to how that card's meaning that you know of, how it's not necessarily the opposite of it, but how that could be a block or limitation. And you kind of have to kind of decipher a little bit more as to how that card fits into what that person's asking about. So it's just a little more challenging to read, I find. And as I was saying before, one of my teachers say that you don't need to read reversals because all aspects, quote unquote, good and or bad are relevant in each card. So the reversal meaning is also in the upright version of the card. And so if she's just going, or if they are just going on their intuition and reading the card, the message of the reversal might end up coming through without the card actually being reversed, if that makes sense. Okay.
So always go with your intuition and never judge or like censor anything.
Never censor. And that's the one thing that one of my teachers told me. They're like, if you don't know what to say, just start talking. Start talking. And the divine has a way of making the words mean something to the current. So I was thinking maybe I should give you a little mini reading before we go. And do you have cards with you today? Do you want to give me one after?
I can get my cards. I don't have them on me, but I can definitely get them.
Okay, get them while I shuffle.
Perfect.
And I'll keep talking. So yeah, I didn't really fully mention. So we talked about fire with Jane. But so water means, so, and that's the cup sign that I was talking about before. It's about emotion, relationships, like things that are watery. So it's definitely, emotions is probably the most important factor about water or cups. And then also there's swords. So swords are the air signs. And if you think of air, it's like kind of up in your head, it's airy, it's thoughtful, it's like, or it's speech, or it's throat, like that's air, is like communicating ideas, communication. And then, as you said, we have the wands, and then the last one is earth. So earth are pentacles, and that means usually stability or material world. Pentacles means finances. So it's kind of things that show up in the grounded physical manifestation. So just so you can see how that relates to all the different cards. So if you have a number and you know your element and you see some imagery that kind of reminds you of something, start saying it and you are already a tarot reader. Okay. What do you got for me, Jane? So me personally, I like to just shuffle the cards. Sometimes if I'm doing it for someone else, if a card comes out, okay, I'll keep that aside for Jane. And sometimes it's an important message for the person. I don't tend to do, any spreads that often, just because I find that it kind of limits maybe what is coming through. So I just usually pull cards and see what they mean and how I want to read them. So do you have a question for today, Jane?
Do I have a question for you?
Yeah, for you. Or like.
Let's see. What do I need to know today?
Oh, so then the card already came out. Should I use that one? Should I use that one? Okay, I'll pull a card for you.
Sure.
Okay. Tell me when.
No.
Okay, interesting. So this is the Nine of Swords. So when I was learning about tarot, we called this card the Kanye West card. So if you think about Kanye West and how he is, like he's fast, like he has all these ideas, his creativity, and he's always charging forward. So Knights are kind of like the teenagers in the Minor Arcana. They're always like moving forward, new ideas, like go, 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 go. They're not kind of waiting around, like they just take action. And as we're talking about swords before, swords are about ideas, thoughts, and getting things to happen. So I would suggest then, Jane, that you might have some latent ideas or latent thoughts that you might have been like humdy-dumming about. And it's saying to seize the moment and start putting them into action right now, not to be ho-hum about them, not to be grounded with them, like fly with any inspiration that you have, any new innovations or ideas.
Well, that seems to resonate. So thank you.
How does that resonate?
Well, like I have all of these ideas, but my issue is that I just get intimidated by them. And I'm just like, well, they're just going to sit on the back burner and I'm never going to know what's going to happen if I don't actually put these ideas into work and actually start them.
So it's saying to act a little bit more like Kanye West and get a move on it, because the time is now and you have the
now. Gotta do it. Anyway, so I pulled cards for you. Well, I was shuffling and it was like, what can Chantel know in terms of her birthday? And 2 cards popped up. So you got Ten of Swords in reverse.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm seeing this as a very positive sign.
Well, upright, it's kind of a positive sign. Okay, so I didn't mention this to you guys before, but when you're looking at a card, even if it's in reverse, sometimes if you look at the imagery, you can actually have that relate to what you say about the reading. So the Ten of Swords is usually about things in the past that might have affected you are over and you're looking towards the future. But if you look imagery-wise, it's like all the swords are falling out of my back. So I could say that like there's going to be relief and release, and everything that's been holding me back or like seizing me is going to be released, and I'll be able to move forward and look towards the future in a more pleasant fashion.
Yeah, that's what I'm interpreting it as well. And that comes into like the second card that came up, which I think is really positive. Eight of Pentacles.
Ah! Okay, the Eight of Pentacles.
Power.
Well, the Eight of Pentacles, it's not a bad card, but it generally signifies, we call it the Apprentice card. And so it means that I've been working really, really hard. Right now, it's about just putting the pedal to the metal and just working hard to get it done. So if I relate those two cards together, I guess it would say that any of my old ideas that have kind of been maybe crippling me or like making me feel like I can't move forward are going to, like, those grips are going to kind of be released, and I'll be able to have a new outlook where I can start working on a new project that might be more fulfilling. It's hard reading for yourself. It's hard reading for yourself. You tell me something. I don't know.
Well, I just look at it as being very positive, and that, like, yes, you're putting in all the work and the struggle that you were going through, like, the past how many years? Because you've been like backstory, you've been through like a lot of shit. But that's fine, because it's all coming to an end with the whole Ten of Swords. Because like you said, 10 is all about completion as well. But numerically, like 1 + 0, new beginnings, right? And then so you're coming into like the Eight of Pentacles, and like you said, yes, it's the Apprentice card, but it's like after your whole apprenticeship, it's like you're
mastery,
manifesting like all of these. Yeah, basically. Yeah.
Give me the money.
Mastery comes money. Exactly.
Make this crown real. My birthday crown.
So I see it as a very positive reading.
Okay, thanks, Jane. And the other card that I pulled up for you was the Ace of Swords, just so you know, upright. So it's kind of falls in alignment with new beginnings and thoughts. And then if you have like the Knight of Swords that were with it, it's like take your new thought ideas and actually start charging forward. So it actually, both those cards related to where you are. New year, let's do this. Okay, so it was so actually awesome talking with you. I learned something new too. What?
No, it's just great. Like, air supports fire, so like I need that. I need like that motivation. But
I'm air. Here you go. Make it happen. So it was awesome. It was great talking to you, and we'll figure out something amazing to talk about for next week. All right?
Yeah. Thanks everyone for watching.
You too. So if you want to subscribe, there should be a subscribe button on our screen, as well as you can subscribe underneath. And if you have any questions that you want us to answer, go to New Ageology 101. So NEWAGEOLOGY 101 at gmail.com. And we'll get to your questions and we will air them online or answer them online. And we also have an Instagram of the same name. So New Ageology 101 on Instagram. So I hope you learned something new. I hope you are interested and engaged, and you come back and watch us. So subscribe and share this with your friends. Right?
Woo!
Okay, bye.
And happy birthday, Chantel.
Thank you.